Welcome to Bloom Psychology. The following is a short, commute-friendly excerpt from our recent clinical webinar, Is It Time for Testing? To watch the full presentation and download the companion toolkit, check the link in the description below. Let's dive in.
So I'm going to talk more about masking in all three of those conditions. And masking makes early identification of these disorders more challenging, which then leads to later referrals for the evaluation. Masking involves consciously and unconsciously hiding ADHD, autistic, and dyslexic symptoms in order to appear more typical in social, academic, and work settings. So some common masking behaviors in ADHD may be mimicking social cues, such as really focusing on maintaining eye contact, even though they may not be actually focused on what is being said in a conversation. The child or individual can look like they are paying attention, but their mind is elsewhere. Actively suppressing ADHD behaviors also can occur, and this can be exhausting for the individual as they are focused on trying not to do something and to control their impulses. Sometimes it's helpful to fidget with less obvious methods, and there are plenty of fidgets out there that have been designed to help with this. But in the end, the suppression of these behaviors is draining. And then individuals can also be very distracted by carefully monitoring their own body language and their facial expressions, which again is just detracting from what they can pay attention to. So some reasons for masking have been already touched upon, but really the pressure to conform to our society's expectations are a driving force, as well as the fear of judgment and the desire to avoid stigmas that are still out there associated with ADHD, such as being viewed as someone who has no control over oneself. This is particularly potent in the adolescent years and into adulthood. Individuals who have anxiety premorbidly are already more likely to engage in these masking behaviors, particularly kids in school, and it can often make it difficult for teachers and other adults to notice any kind of ADHD symptoms. Masking comes with an emotional toll, which includes a lot of emotional fatigue and then the secondary mental health challenges that Dr. Caballero mentioned, such as anxiety, self-doubt. And then clients often will report to us that they're exhausted at the end of the day and the workday, and then that impacts their home life, their family life, and there's no physical reason for their fatigue. It was all from masking. It can also cause feelings of disconnection from one's authentic self, which is particularly difficult for children and adolescents who are developing their identities. And while in general, masking can help with the social acceptance in the short term, it often causes the long-term emotional strain and secondary problems, such as family conflicts. So masking and dyslexia. It is a similar concept of using compensatory strategies to hide or work around reading, spelling, and writing difficulties in order to meet the academic expectations. But it is somewhat different from ADHD and autism spectrum in the strategies that they use. Masking in dyslexia shares the feature of effortful adaptation under pressure, but with the emotional and physical consequences. But individuals with dyslexia may divert attention from their reading difficulties through behavioral methods, such as becoming like a class clown. They also can pick up on context and cues in reading materials, such as pictures, and can learn to guess at words based on what they look like. Often individuals with dyslexia will memorize even the shape of the words or the image of a whole word. Oftentimes parents will say that their child will work really hard at learning to read a word on one page and then on the next page not be able to read it again until they have gotten to the point that they have memorized what that word physically looks like. People with dyslexia will often avoid reading aloud, which may expose their difficulties, and they often will avoid any kind of timed reading tasks because it exposes the effort and the slowness that comes from that. They also tend to expend excessive time on written work in order to be more accurate and to ensure that their spelling and their language-based difficulties aren't obvious. So the cost of these strategies includes significantly increased effort, which again leads to that mental fatigue, slower task completion and processing speed, and the emotional tolls of anxiety, lower confidence, dislike of school, and that negative self-talk. In autism spectrum disorder, many individuals, particularly females and those with average or higher IQs, can develop very sophisticated compensatory strategies to hide their social deficits. Mimicking social cues is frequently a strategy that we see that can be highly effective, but is physically and emotionally exhausting for the individual. We have many examples of this as we do evaluate adults for autism spectrum, and they can reflect back and tell us that they would read books such as How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie multiple times, and then practice and apply those strategies to appear kind of normal socially to their peers. The use of conventional scripts is also an effective strategy often used. So, for example, an adult who as a child, their parents encouraged them to read books on developing skills such as sales pitches and sales skills, and then would have him go house to house to practice these skills by promoting their own family landscaping business. This requires an incredible amount of time and effort and leads to autistic burnout.
Thanks for listening. If you found this helpful, you can access the full in-depth webinar and our professional resources at bloompsychologyservices.com. The link is right below in the description.